I have a big issue with Stellar XLM, and no, this video is not clickbait. This is a very real issue that you guys definitely need to listen to. Now, it's definitely not FUD by any means. I myself am a Stellar investor. I've been DCAing into this project for about 1.5 years now, so I definitely like the project, but this is something that needs to be addressed, and no one's talking about it, and I feel obligated to say it to you guys because, well, one, that's my job, and most of you guys don't have the same knowledge or time to invest into the research, so you rely on people like myself to give that to. So that's what I'm here for. Okay, but I want to say for the record, this video is not FUD. I actually love the project, but again, it's a very real issue. We're going to get to that in just a second, but first, I want to say comment of the day from Mr. Panda. Now, I want to do these in every single video, so if you do have anything to share with the community in the comment section, please help each other out. You know, question me, ask me, or challenge me rather in the video, okay? Because if you provide good information, I'm going to want to share it very briefly, all right? So Mr. Panda's pretty much making a very good point here that, you know, projects that do have investors and lots of big time investors with lots of equity raised, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because ultimately, the more investors you have and the higher quality they are, there's a higher risk that they're going to sell off, right? It just comes with that territory, okay? Because they're venture capitalists, they're designed to make money for their investors. But on the contrary, the double-edged sword aspect of it is that it's going to provide more interest for retail investors like you and I, degens, to go, hey, wow, this is super interesting. Like, look at all these investors that are invested in it. Must be good. Right, so there is a bit of double-edged sword here. This is why it's imperative you guys listen when I say you need to look at the distribution and vesting, because if you don't, you know, this can actually be detrimental, even though it might look good from the get-go. So thank you, Mr. Panda. Again, if you guys want to be comment of the day, you know what to do. Provide value, help each other out, okay? Anyway, guys, let's actually get into Stellar itself and figure out where the whole premise of this video is actually going, okay? So let's begin with some of the basics, right? The current price of Stellar is at 11 cents. That's where we sit right now. And if we have a look at its, you know, previous all-time low in terms of between the last two bull markets, this was about 3 cents. So we're more or less just under a 4x up from there. And kind of when the right time to so-called buy, like when the alarm bells start going off in my head, is when we're very close to ICO price. Now, ICO happened a very long time ago for Stellar, and as we can see with the price, that kind of reflects that, right? 1/5 of a cent, and the all-time low was 1/10 of a cent. So those guys would pretty much be, 100 to 50x up respectively right now. So that's a long way off, and so that isn't really a good time to start, buying. The alarm bells don't go off at that stage, but because the project is so old, like ancient, I mean, I'm kind of looking at this 3 cent mark as sort of like its all-time low phase, and I think where Stellar will go in future, it wouldn't be a bad idea to DCA, but of course, these peaks and troughs can definitely look very insignificant and small when we're zoomed all the way out. So as you know already, every cent counts, so obviously accumulating at the cheapest price is the best way to do it. Is DCAing the best method? Probably. Just keep that in mind, guys, right? But let's actually go to where this video is headed. So find the data. This is going to tie in a second. So the actual all-time high wasn't the most recent bull market, rather the first, where we saw the all-time high of 94 cents, 12.5 billion market cap, 17 billion circulating supply, and 347 trading volume. Now, believe it or not, this was actually one of the best cryptos back then, right? Because it was like, I think it was like number 3 on the charts. It was up there, right? This was big for back then. Anyway, fast forward somewhat recently, 64 cents. So right off the rip, obviously, we were actually 30 cents down. However, we had a higher market cap of about $4 billion more, but the reason it didn't perform as well was because of circulating supply. This is going to come up quite a bit in this video, right? We also had a 13x in terms of trading volume. So if we extrapolate this data, again, pretty much we lost 30 cents, but we gained a 31% more in terms of demand, aka $4 billion. But the real sucker here was this, okay? Circulating supply, 29% increase. Obviously, demand wasn't enough to supplement for the increase in supply. And look at this. I mean, look, trading volume itself went up 13x, guys, 13x. Yet we still couldn't push it above the previous all-time high, okay? So what's this saying? Well, quite obviously, what's the variable there? The circulating supply is contributing to Stellar's price regression, plus other factors. What do I mean by other factors? Well, one, for example, is that, we're all humans. What do? We react off emotions. What are markets? Markets are a direct reflection of everyone as a hive's emotions. So I believe because Stellar and XLM are somewhat kind of connected, they're not really connected, right? But they are cross-border payment sort of providers, if you will, founded by the same person, so on and so forth. There is sort of deep-seated connections there. I feel like a lot of people are subliminally connected to the two, and therefore the XRP lawsuit kind of had an impact in Stellar's progression in the last bull market. This is just me hypothesizing here. It might not have, but I definitely feel like one contributing factor is the hive mind, and I feel like a lot of people, if they feel sort of like, okay, well, one project's going down, you know, maybe it kind of reflects on this project because they're kind of cooperating in a weird way. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense, right? Even though, you know, Stellar, I think, didn't even pass the Howey test, rather. So technically it doesn't class as a security, but we don't actually know officially yet. But there is definitely uncertainty there in general, all right? But this is where it gets dicey, okay? So this is what I had to go ahead and do myself, right? I had to go into CoinMarketCap for every single one of these years and find the circulating supply, because thank you, Stellar Foundation, you don't have a vesting schedule. So this took me some hours. I would really appreciate if you guys liked the video just for this one slide. It took longer than expected, right? But anyway, I actually found out what the percentages were increased in terms of the circulating supply between each of these red years, okay? So this went up to right up to now. And as you can see, we had a crazy year, 2017 and 2018, went up about over a 2x, right? It was insane. The average came out to 34% rather. But as you can see, this year kind of would have pushed it up probably a good 10%, okay? So nevertheless, I mean, we're inflating year on year, but that's not the concern. Doesn't concern me as much as the underlying issue here. Hopefully you guys can spot it. And it's simply, we don't know how many tokens are being emitted at any given time, right? Let me tie this in, right? This is what from the actual Stellar website itself. This is an actual statement, right? Nearly 20 billion lumens, which is the XLM token, are out in the open market, and the Stellar Development Foundation retains the other 30 billion or so to develop and promote the growth of Stellar per its mandate. Those lumens, again, the XLM token, will enter the public markets over the next few years. Again, this is based on them. There's no vesting schedule. We've got no information on when these come out, but it will vest over the next few years. Okay, so that tells me literally nothing. So, and the published date for this article was, I couldn't find it, right? So I believe based off the metrics that this would have been at least maybe a year or two ago. So, right, okay, over the next few years, when is that, right? Is that 2025? I don't know. Well, I'm going to give you a price prediction at the end of this video, a price prediction, okay? But I'm going to consider all the tokens are in circulation, okay? But so the ultimate question is, what does this all mean, okay? Well, essentially, circulating supply for Stellar is a B, right? I think you guys can figure that word out yourselves. And we don't know how many tokens are going to be emitted at any given time. This is actually a very serious concern for an investor. I don't care anyone that says to me down below that it's not. If you say it's not, you are biased towards Stellar, right? I love Stellar. Again, I hold the tokens myself. I love the project. I'm actually going to stay invested and committed for a long time. But I definitely feel like this is not something I'm going to write home about. This is not horrible news, but it's not good news either. Now, the Stellar Development Fund, or SDF, has access to all the remaining XLM tokens. That's right. Currently, if you go to CoinMarketCap and have a look at all the uncirculated tokens, these guys have it, right? And while they might be a trustworthy foundation, we don't know if demand will be watered away at a moment's notice. So this is in my head right now, right? We essentially, this is what's going through my head, have a huge cloud looming. This is what my head looks like right now. Is tomorrow going to be 2 billion tokens? Is the next day going to be 7? Or is it 500 million? Right? And I know, again, some of you guys are going to go, well, they're a foundation. They're a respectable foundation. They're doing, they've got amazing partners. They're partnered with IBM, and in a bit I'm going to tell you more about those partners. But it's like all these amazing things, like they're going to do things by the book. And yes, while they have a great sort of sheet, a mandate sheet that tells you, what sort of what department has how many tokens and how many of those tokens are actually currently circulating and how many they have in treasury still, I don't care. It's still a bit of a concern to me. And I feel like for me to say it's okay is a straight out lie. It's not, right? Because, they will publish it on Twitter and all through their blogs and stuff. But ultimately, that's still a bit harmful for the poor bugger that's like kind of armchair investing, and it's just like wakes up the next, in 12 months and comes back into crypto and goes, oh, my XLM tokens are now worth nothing, right? Because most people don't have the foresight to wait an extra 10 years. And I want to come around because it's not all bad news, right? So just hanging with me there if you're a Stellar fan, right? Now, we don't know when the tokens will be entered into circulation. All we know is there's going to be a max supply with zero inflation. So this is kind of where the good news will come back in a second. Now, keep in mind, any YouTuber telling you they can predict the future price of Stellar is lying to your face. It's quite funny, I say before that I'm going to give you a price prediction, I still am, but you'll see what I'm trying to say here, because most YouTubers don't account for circulating supply. A lot of them will just straight up say to your face, I expect demand to 10x. And while they're half right in that answer, right, they're not giving you the truth, because that poor bugger that's going to listen to that advice, and I was once that person, okay, and you go and you invest in hoping for a $10 token, and okay, I'm going to sell it 10, maybe even $8, right, and then they don't consider circulating supply, so that token never gets anywhere near that. It might get to $3. And that poor guy is holding his tokens or her tokens for a long time, right? And it's just damaging. It's right how people lose so much money, okay? So I want to keep that in mind, right? So just remember that we do have to consider circulating supply. If you don't take this into consideration, you're only doing half your job, okay? Now, Stellar is, again, still an amazing project. This is what I was saying before. It does have a fixed supply of 50 billion tokens with zero inflation. Big bonus there. So eventually, even if they emitted all their tokens tomorrow, if you believe in the long-term vision of the project, there will be a time where there is a supply shock, and we're going to look in a second, the price will go up, right? Also, decent value capture. You must hold at least one XLM in your wallet to keep it active, and there's obviously transaction fees because it is a cross-border payments. Like the whole idea of Stellar is to constantly transact tokens across a borderless environment. This is a standard but pretty good form of value capture, right? Now, it does have real world use cases as well. Stellar may be used in some capacity for the new global financial system. Of course, everyone talks about ISO 20022, and this will create institutional and national demand, okay? As long as that is adopted, and I believe it will be in the long term, as long as it's adopted and considered for both of these guys, I believe we're talking about trillions of dollars in processing, therefore capturing a fair bit of value, right? So what does this mean? So what does supply and demand equal? Well, there is a point in time where we're going to see supply shock, okay? So whether all the tokens come out tomorrow or not, it will happen, okay? As long as there's demand, of course. So we may see something like this play out. This is me drawing it in. Hopefully you guys like my illustrations here. So depending on supply and demand, of course, this is what it might look like. Now, this little chart here, I've estimated this is going to be roughly about a 60-cent token. So this is pretty much what it'll look like, okay, if it goes to 60 cents. And I've considered pretty much all the tokens to be in circulation here and a 2x on demand, okay? So from the market cap here, I'm saying we've doubled the demand. So we've gone from 15 billion market cap to 30 billion market cap. But of course, the max amount of tokens, the worst case scenario, okay? So what does this look like if, let's just say, the supply shock thing comes into play? So let's just say all the tokens weren't in circulation here. And let's just say the price was up here a bit more, right? If all the 50 billion tokens were in circulation at this point in time, right? Or let's just say, as I said here, it probably would happen a bit before this because it's not just going to magically hit 50 billion and just like shoot up in price. You guys get the idea though, right? There will be this point in time where as I say, the supply shock, right? There's going to be so much demand and there's going to be no more inflating tokens, right? There's no more tokens emitted. And you're going to have people, the degens, the hive mind, know this. And they're just going to buy the token because, right, there's no more inflation, right? That's a whole part of crypto. And if you factor in that, back around this time, 2030, 2031, the following bull market, this is where you'll see all the bad projects pushed out. They won't even be alive anymore. Probably the 25,000 tokens will be diminished quite significantly. Regulations involved at that point, and hopefully Stellar's around still capturing more and more value. It's already got some big name partners, which we'll have a look at just in a second, right? So some, pretty important stuff here to consider, okay? Supply shock is a big factor. Now, some of those partners include MoneyGram, Ukraine, so the Ukraine government through an MOU right now, which is basically to step up from a handshake agreement, but it's still good nevertheless. It's got IBM and it's got Circle as well as a project called Coinme. There is more, of course, but this isn't a full deep dive video, guys. This is just me bringing you to the concerns. If you did want to see a deep dive, which I do plan to do regardless, stay tuned, hopefully for the next few weeks, okay? So this is my kind of price, just to reiterate from that slide before that I showed you, just to put some numbers on it, just so you can visualize it a bit better, right? So I'm expecting a minimum of 2x from the 2021 demand, aka market cap, which would put the total market cap for Stellar in 2025 at about $30 billion. Again, I'm guessing the minimum, right? The minimum, which would put at the current circulating supply $1.12. But of course, worst case scenario, factoring in the full inflated tokens, 50 billion max, that would put the token price at about 6 cents. Now, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Look, if you did want to learn more about Stellar, as I said, subscribe, stay tuned for those videos. I've got plenty more videos that are really, really good as well. And of course, follow me on Twitter. I'm coming up with a tournament soon that I'll be doing every single month. doing polls every second day to find out which are the best projects in crypto based on what you vote. Okay, so I need your help, right? Anyway, guys, appreciate you all as always, and look forward to seeing you soon.